Okay, finally, let's put this up there, which is that there have been some fascinating developments with Russia and Asia. So Putin and Xi Jinping will be meeting again in Uzbekistan later this week for talks about signaling, quote, warming relations between the two powers as they face off against the West. That's at a meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Council between China and Russia and many of the Central Asian states. Basically, what's happening here is Putin is in a bit of a bind. The Chinese are buying his oil, and they are enriching him to a historic degree. Now, of course, that's something that he appreciates. However, they are not selling him the weapons and resupply that he needs, which is causing some consternation in the Russian military supply chain. And actually, if you pair it with a very new and recent report, this talks makes a lot of sense. Let's put this up there, which is that Russia is currently buying a lot of ammunition and resupplying much of its military actually from North Korea. North Korea, of course, happy to sell to whomever will buy their stuff.
For
they
food,
desperately
basically.
need the money in order to feed maybe 1/10 of their population.
Terrible.
Yeah, obviously it's horrific. But the point is that North Korea right now, quote, may represent the biggest single source of compatible legacy artillery ammunitions outside of Russia, including domestic production to further their supplies. One of the only other ones that could have that capability is China. The fact that China has not affirmatively made that decision to sell weapons directly to the Russian military and is only really economically backstopping them, I don't think that's gone unnoticed in Moscow. So this is an area where we should watch very closely. We also should remember this. Putin, look, there's no way to know, but it does appear, I don't know if anybody remembers this, that he had a meeting with Xi Jinping back in February. I think it was around the Winter Olympics when it seems that he gave some sort of heads up to Xi Jinping. He's like, hey, I'm going to move in on Ukraine. And she was like, yeah, okay. So this could also indicate bidirectionally, we don't know what's happening, which is that Xi should be talking about Putin with his plans on Taiwan domestically. Putin could be talking about maybe some new offensive, some new development. He could be asking him for weapons or more. Anytime these two meet, it is worth paying a lot of attention to. I don't think we should put this under the rug either. China's not doing so well right now either, Krystal.
True.
COVID zero is wreaking havoc across the economy. Their domestic production is way down. Their real estate bubble is cracking. I mean, things in China are at a worst point economically since 2008. So it's not like there isn't turmoil on their side either that they may be discussing with Putin.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Putin also just gave a big speech at this sort of like regional confab. Very bellicose. I mean, typical stuff you would expect, saying, we will not supply gas, oil, coal, heating oil. We will not supply anything. This was at the Eastern Economic Forum. He added Moscow will let, quote, the wolf's tail freeze, in reference to a famous Russian fairy tale. And he also was like really beating his chest about how little the sanctions have affected them. Now, I think a lot of this is bluster. They are taking a hit economically. There's no doubt about it, even though the fact that oil prices have gone up has helped to bolster them and helped to protect them from some of the greatest damage. And some of the measures that they had taken before this war to protect themselves domestically have also helped to insulate them. But they are taking a hit. But what he's saying is, I'm sure we have not lost anything and will not lose anything. The main thing is strengthening our sovereignty. And this is the inevitable result of what is happening now. We are getting more of a look at what is exactly the reality economically for Russia. Let's go ahead and put this next part up on the screen. This is from Bloomberg. They got a hold of an internal Russian economist memo. They say Russia privately warns of deep and prolonged economic damage. The confidential document contrasts with upbeat public statements. And the report says key sectors face a sharp drop in output and a large brain drain. Russia did not really deny this report. They've got sort of several scenarios, like a target scenario, an inertial scenario, they call it, and worst case scenario. Two of the three scenarios show the contraction in the Russian economy accelerating next year, with the economy returning to the pre-war level only at the end of a decade or later. The inertial one, sort of the middle ground one, sees the economy bottoming out next year, 8.3% below the 2021 level. The stress scenario, that's the worst case scenario, puts a low in 2024 at 11.9% under last year's level. And they estimate, one number that jumped out here, that as many as 200,000 IT specialists catalyst might leave the country by 2025, the first official forecast of the widening brain drain. So it shows you, I don't think the economic hit was anything like what Western powers expected, especially with these sort of extraordinary lengths they have gone to sanction and cut off the Russian economy. But they are sustaining damage. You know, Putin's claims to the contrary notwithstanding, there is real economic damage and pain here that will be difficult for them over the longer term.
Yes, and I think it's always important to underscore that. So anytime we talk about how the Russian economy is doing better than expected, that doesn't mean it's doing well, and that this is a good view into that exactly. So
yes.
Anyway.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.